So just imagine starting your day off with the cacophony of these sounds. These are exactly the sounds that we work to eliminate and that we encounter on a daily basis in the world of engineering. Whether it's the hum of an engine, the clatter of machinery, or the whine of a cooling fan, noise is everywhere. And while it may be an annoyance for some, for us as engineers, it represents, it's a symptom of inefficiencies. It can result in failures, and ultimately, and most importantly, it can result in unhappy customers. Now, this is exactly what I faced, the issue I faced on a product I was working on about 5 years ago. So back then, I was working for this mid-sized company in the greater Porto area in Portugal. And this company had been experiencing some significant growth over the past decade or so. They served, or they manufactured servo motors to control motion. Now, this company had evolved from selling individual components to actually selling full-blown motion control systems, including electronics, electric motors, and gearboxes. And now we were all sitting at the same table. All these different component groups are sitting at the same table and being asked to come up with a new electric steering solution for a brand new electric vehicle. Management wanted us all to collaborate very closely and bring together our different disciplines, not just design our components in isolation and then assemble them at the end, but truly work on the product together from the start. And we did. And after the first few prototypes were delivered to the customer, one bit of feedback rang some alarm bells in management. The product was noisy. Now, this was an electric steering solution for an electric vehicle, and electric vehicles are notably quiet environments, right? So we got together to discuss the issue. But what we actually did was we started pointing fingers at each other. The motor design was new, so that was probably the root cause. Well, the gearbox guys had experienced something similar in the past, so it's probably them. And you know, those electronics guys are weird and difficult to talk to, so they probably messed up somewhere in the motion control algorithms. So where were we? A stalemate. Everybody was a suspect in this. Management started to draw fishbone diagrams. There were individual activities planned, right? But the bottom line is everyone was a suspect in this. My team at the time was in charge of, among other things, motion control, the motion control algorithms used in the product. And I don't know if you're familiar with this at all, but it's fairly complex stuff. And if you're not used to dealing with it on a daily basis, it can be hard stuff to follow. I mean, even the motor control expert or the motor experts and the gearbox experts had a tough time following our reasoning, despite being very, very smart people. So we realized we couldn't just point at the equations and bring up our circuit schematics. They wouldn't really understand it. They wouldn't really believe what we're saying. So how can we truly isolate the issue? Well, we decided to join this finger-pointing game, but we started by pointing the finger at ourselves. We wanted to convince others, but in some ways also ourselves, that we weren't to blame. As the least experienced team on the project, we weren't so sure we weren't actually the root cause. So we got to work. We picked our hardware and software apart, and we checked every individual function to make sure it was doing what was intended. We drew graphs, we drew some diagrams, we even drew some flow charts that explained our reasoning, and we put this all together in presentation packages that we would regularly deliver to the whole team. We welcomed questions, we drilled into details in individual conversations if need be. We truly went out of our way to make sure we were well understood by the whole round. And what this actually ended up giving us as an extra was that we were developing a much deeper understanding of the solution we were providing. It would help us design better products in the future. And as we started to dig into these root causes, we started noticing other teams were doing the same. They started making this conscious effort to communicate their findings to the whole round. And they were reasoning together with us, bringing us into their own thought processes and seeking our advice and our feedback. We truly started to almost graduate from this internal customer relationship that some of you here today may know about, and blossoming into this one big team. Then one day, after the Gearbox team had spent many, many hours looking at the fine details of their mechanical design, some advanced inspection equipment picked up on some chipped teeth in the gears. And upon closer inspection, it was not just in one gear, but actually a whole batch. So we thought we had found our culprit. And the team got together, quickly resolved the issue, and for the next design iteration, the customer was considerably happier, and so was management. But of course, on top of everything, we noticed that there was this new group spirit in the air. We had tackled this problem together, and we noticed that, or we learned, that if we let down our guard, if we start seeking each other's advice, and we ensure a mutual understanding of each and everyone's difficulties, we could effectively collaborate. So now, I am at Bosch. At Home Comfort, we designed some fairly complex systems. We've got to bring together control electronics, we've got to bring some pipes, some hydraulic pumps, some cabling, we've got to bring together internet connections to make all of these appliances. Home Comfort is truly a multidisciplinary group. And I find myself almost on a daily basis surrounded by world-class experts, right? But while we may understand parts of the whole, we cannot hope to understand everything. We must rely on each other not only to build better products, but actually to help us understand what we don't know. So back to my story from the beginning. The biggest obstacle that we all faced was our ego. We assumed others were in the wrong. We assumed others understood what we told and presented to them. And we assume, as we often do, that what we say and what is perceived are the same thing. This is not necessarily the truth. In a team, understanding gives the opportunity for trust to blossom. By letting others into our own thought processes and issues we encounter along the way, we give them the opportunity to lend us a helping hand. Empathy helps to remove roadblocks from other teams, which ultimately helps us deliver better products. In my example, being clear and open about how our modules and components worked, we allowed for a seamless integration into the wider product. And good communication truly helped us to drown out the noise and enabled us to focus on the right problem. Now, I told you at the beginning I was going to talk about noise, so hopefully it's become clear what noise I was talking about. I think if we tune into the noise that our organizations and teams make, we can start to find the root causes and mitigate those. Now, we may start by removing noise in our products, but in the long run, what we aspire to do is to make our teams work as smoothly and quietly as a very well-oiled machine.